Hi, I'm Sarah Chun, and this is the story of how I learned that sometimes your biggest enemies were the faces of family, especially in business. For 10 years, I poured my heart into our small family-run tech company. What began as a struggling repair shop turned into a $50 million enterprise under my leadership. But as I would come to learn, success doesn't just attract opportunity, it also breeds jealousy, even among those who should be cheering you on. It all started when the business was just a modest computer repair shop tucked in a strip mall. My dad had founded it 2 decades ago. It wasn't glamorous and barely paid the bills, but it was his pride and joy. My sister Emma was always the golden child. Straight A's, elite business school, destined for greatness. Me. I was the quiet one who stayed behind, helping Dad between college classes while earning my computer science degree at a local university. "Sarah, you're wasting your potential here," Emma would say on her visits home, fresh from her high-rise internships. "You should aim higher." But I saw something in that little shop, potential. While Emma studied theoretical models in classrooms, I was learning to code, identify market gaps, and solve real problems. In my final year, I built our first proprietary software, a basic, affordable inventory management tool for small businesses. It wasn't flashy, but it worked. Dad was skeptical, until local businesses started buying it. "Maybe you're onto something, kiddo," he said, his voice tinged with pride. That moment meant everything to me. I had no idea how temporary it would be. Under my direction, the company evolved. I worked 14-hour days, 7 days a week. Emma, meanwhile, was climbing the corporate ladder in New York. I was building something real, a legacy. Our tiny shop grew into a software development firm, our client base stretching from our neighborhood to national accounts. Mom used to worry. "Don't work yourself to death, Sarah," she'd say, bringing me dinner late at night. But I was driven by vision, by passion, and maybe, deep down, by the need to prove myself. 5 years in, we hit our first $1 million in annual revenue. That's when Emma suddenly reappeared. She quit her high-paying job and moved back home. "I think it's time I take my rightful place in the company," she declared over dinner one night. "With my business experience, we can go even further." Dad lit up. "That's wonderful, Princess. We could use your professional touch." I froze, fork halfway to my mouth. The company I had rebuilt from the ground up was being handed to her like a trophy. But I bit my tongue and tried to be a team player. Emma was named co-CEO. She had no experience in our industry, but Dad insisted it would boost our image. I focused on what I knew: product development, client relationships, operations. Emma became the face of the company, hosting interviews, collecting awards, speaking on panels about being a woman in tech. All while my team and I kept the innovation machine running behind the scenes. We grew. $50 million in revenue. A national presence. And yet, I could feel myself being edged out, excluded from meetings, ignored in decisions, erased from the narrative. Then came Dad's 60th birthday party. The night everything fell apart. Emma planned the whole thing, of course. A luxury ballroom, catered dinner, our top clients and partners all invited. It felt more like a PR event than a birthday. I arrived early in a simple black dress. Emma looked me up and down. "Couldn't you have made more of an effort?" she muttered. I brushed it off and focused on helping guests feel welcome. As the room buzzed with chatter and champagne, Emma worked the room like a politician. I stayed in the background, making sure everything went off without a hitch. Then came the speech. She stood, glass in hand, commanding the room's attention. I expected a toast to Dad, maybe a sentimental story. But instead, she dropped a bomb. "As we celebrate Dad's 60th birthday," she began, her voice echoing through the ballroom, "I think it's the perfect moment to announce some exciting changes at Shin Technologies." My stomach sank. The board has agreed that the company needs unified leadership to continue scaling. For too long, we've been held back by outdated thinking and resistance to innovation. Then her eyes locked on mine. "That's why, effective immediately, I will be taking over as sole CEO." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. It's time for certain elements that are no longer aligned with our vision to step aside. Just like that, I was erased. The company I had built, the years of sacrifice, the sleepless nights, dismissed with a few carefully chosen words. That night, I realized something that changed my life. Blood may be thicker than water, but ambition can be colder than steel. I sat frozen as Emma continued her character assassination, disguised as a corporate announcement. Some people, she said, her voice dripping with faux sympathy, are better suited to technical roles rather than leadership. My sister, Sarah, has been adequate in maintaining our legacy systems. But if we want to compete in today's market, we need vision. We need excellence. And frankly, Sarah, you're just not cut out for this level of business. I turned to Dad, expecting, hoping for him to say something, to defend me, but he just nodded along, pride shining in his eyes. Mom sat quietly, staring at her plate, her hands trembling. Emma's voice rose confidently, as if delivering a verdict. The truth is, Sarah, you're worthless in today's business world. Your outdated ideas and lack of formal business education have become a liability. It's time for you to step aside gracefully. The room fell into a stunned, suffocating silence. All eyes turned to me, waiting. I felt their pity, their judgment. In one evening, everything I had built, every sacrifice, every sleepless night, was being stripped away in front of our peers, our clients, and our family. I stood slowly. My chair scraped loudly against the ballroom floor, the sound like a gunshot. Everyone braced for a scene. A meltdown. A shouting match. But I didn't give them that. Instead, I walked to Dad's table, pulled a small wrapped box from my purse, and placed it gently in front of him. "Happy birthday, Dad," I said softly. Then I turned and walked out, head high, leaving behind the gasps, whispers, and stares. That night, I sat alone in my home office, surrounded by awards and patents that bore my name. I should have been broken, but I wasn't. I was calm, focused, because Emma had made one fatal mistake. She underestimated me. I opened my laptop and began typing. A small smile crept across my face. Tomorrow would be interesting. The next morning was bright and clear. I arrived at the office before anyone else and waited. At exactly 9 a.m., Emma strode through the doors, Dad at her side, both of them beaming. "Sarah!" Emma blinked in confusion, already annoyed. "What are you doing here? I thought after last night, you'd have the dignity to stay home." I smiled. "Just wrapping up a few loose ends, sister dear. But since you're here, we should talk about the company's future." "There's nothing to discuss," Dad said firmly. "Emma's in charge now. The board has approved it." "Ah, yes, the board," I said, pulling out my tablet. "Let's talk about that." I connected to the conference room screen. You see, while Emma was busy planning parties and giving interviews, I was building this company. And there are a few things you seem to have forgotten. A legal document appeared on the screen. First, a quick reminder, I own 51% of Chin Technologies. Emma's smile faltered. When we incorporated, Dad gave us each 25%. But 3 years ago, when the company needed capital to expand, Dad, too busy attending one of Emma's award ceremonies, signed over an additional 6% to me. Without reading the terms, the blood drained from both their faces. "That's not possible," Emma whispered. "Oh, it's very possible," I said, pulling up more documents. "But there's more. The core software that generates 80% of our revenue, it's not owned by Chin Technologies." Emma stared at me, horrified. "It's owned by Innovate Solutions, LLC, my separate company. Chin Tech only had a licensing agreement, one that expired." I glanced at my watch. About 10 minutes ago. Dad dropped into a chair, pale. "The renewal papers, you asked me to sign them last week." "Yes, but you were too busy helping Emma plan the party, so I chose not to submit them." Emma's voice cracked. "You underhanded little." "Careful," I said. "You'll want to hear the rest." I tapped the screen, revealing my inbox. "Last night, while you were announcing my graceful exit, I emailed every client, partner, and employee. Most of our major clients have personal loyalty clauses. They're here because I am. They signed with me. I let them know about the leadership change." I scrolled through dozens of replies. Many have already activated their contract termination clauses. And our top developers, the ones who actually built our software, they're employed by Innovate Solutions. They've already accepted offers to join me at my new venture. Through the glass walls, we could see employees gathering, checking phones. Whispers spread like wildfire. Emma frantically scrolled through her phone, her face crumpling. You can't do this," she stammered. "You mean the company you tried to steal from me?" I replied coolly. "That company ceased to exist the moment you humiliated me last night." I stood, adjusting my blazer. "So here are your options. Option 1, I walk away with my shares, my software, my clients, and my team. Chin Technologies becomes an empty shell. You can explain to your investors why the company's value dropped to zero overnight." Dad looked 10 years older. "Option 2, he asked, almost pleading. "Option 2, I said, looking them both in the eye. "You both resign." Silence fell. I turned toward the window as the city skyline gleamed in the morning sun. For 10 years, I had let my family define me. But now I was done being underestimated. And this time I was in charge. I take full control of Chin Technologies. You keep your shares as silent partners. You'll still receive dividends, of course, but you'll have no say in operations. Emma gets a generous severance package and glowing references for a job far away from here. Emma's face turned an alarming shade of red. "You planned this all along, didn't you? Just waited for the right moment to stab us in the back." I laughed, cold, humorless. "No, Emma. I spent 10 years trying to be a good daughter, a good sister. While you both dismissed me, I built this company from nothing. You collected accolades for my work, and I kept my head down and built more. I only made my move, I checked my watch, about 12 hours ago, right after you called me worthless in front of everyone we know." My phone buzzed again. Another client termination notice. "Time's running out. What's it going to be?" The next hour passed in a blur of contracts, signatures, and hushed conversations with lawyers. By noon, I sat alone in what was now indisputably my office, staring out over the city I had helped put on the tech map. I had won, but the victory felt hollow. Family ties had shattered like dropped crystal, still beautiful, but broken beyond repair. That evening, Mom visited. Her eyes were red, her voice soft. "Did it have to end this way?" "They gave me no choice," I replied gently. "They would have taken everything I built and tossed me aside without a second thought." She nodded, understanding, though the sadness in her eyes lingered. "What happens now?" I showed her the plans I'd been holding back, new product lines, expansion strategies, innovations that would redefine the industry. "Now," I said, "I build something even bigger. But this time, I'm not dragging along anyone who sees me as a burden." Over the next year, under my sole leadership, Chin Technologies tripled in value. Emma found a job with a startup in Silicon Valley, humbled, if not entirely changed. Dad finally retired, the weight of his misplaced trust settling heavily on his shoulders. We still see each other on holidays, keeping things polite, the conversation carefully curated to avoid old wounds that never quite healed. Sometimes, late at night, I look at old family photos and feel a flicker of grief for what we lost. But then I remember the night of Dad's birthday party, the way Emma spoke, the way Dad nodded with pride at her cruelty. In business and in family, respect isn't inherited. It's earned. They learned that too late. As for me, I learned that the quiet ones, the ones who are underestimated, are the ones you should never ignore. Because we're the ones who know how to build something from nothing, and how to take it all back when others try to steal it. My story spread like wildfire through business circles. A cautionary tale. These days, when I walk into conferences, I hear the whispers. "That's Sarah Chun, the one who..." They never finish the sentence. They don't need to. My success is everything. Last week, I got an invitation to speak at Emma's business school graduation. The topic? Hidden strengths, the power of underestimated leaders. I accepted, of course. I already know exactly what I'll say. I have quite the story to tell. Chin Technologies continues to thrive. But more importantly, I've found peace. Because the best revenge isn't about destruction, it's about rising so high that those who doubted you can't ignore their own mistakes. As I write this from my corner office, overlooking the skyline, I'm reminded of something my mother once told me. Success is the best revenge. But wisdom is knowing when to stop seeking revenge and start seeking growth. She was right. I've moved beyond revenge. Now I focus on legacy. I still keep that wrapped birthday gift I never gave Dad. A photo album of the company's journey, from a tiny repair shop to what it is today. Maybe someday, When the wounds aren't so fresh, I'll give it to him. Until then, it stays with me, a quiet reminder of where I came from, and how every underestimated strength can become the foundation of something extraordinary.